Since the late 19th century, the Sadie Brown Cemetery folklore remains that its name comes from Sadie Brown, a black lady who filled many domestic jobs for white folks in West Plains. She was known to be a hard worker and was well respected in her black community and in the white community. It is only after researching property records and interviewing ancestors of the first black residents of southern Missouri that the Sadie Brown Cemetery is, in fact, named after a male African-American Methodist minister, St. Leger Sadie Brown, who owned the land and donated it to the earliest African-American settlers in southern Missouri, eventually becoming the only preeminent cemetery in the region for the African-American community. The cemetery is approximately 2.5 acres at the intersection of Route 14 and North Highway 63 in West Plains, Howe County, Missouri. From its inception in the 1800s, the cemetery serves as the principal final resting place for African Americans in the region. Those that rest there include decorated war veterans, Jules Towton, preachers St. Leger Brown, domestics, and civic-minded citizens that all played a part in laying the foundation for the African American community. Intricately inscribed granite and marble to crudely fabricated concrete and rock serve as headstones for the graves at Sadie Brown Cemetery. Even today, African Americans in the community make affectionate comedic quips to the Sadie Brown Cemetery as they contemplate serious life and death issues. A few examples include, "If you keep on, you'll find yourself in Sadie Brown," meaning that your life choices will result in your death. Or, "I went from downtown to Sadie Brown," meaning you've lived your entire life in West Plains. Or, "If I get too far down, just carry me out to Sadie Brown," meaning no suffering on my deathbed, just let me die. The oldest recorded burials in the Sadie Brown Cemetery are Francis Farrar and William Bobo, who died in 1880. The Farrar and Bobo families arrived in southern Missouri in 1869 from Bedford County, Tennessee, and William Bobo is the first black head of household documented in the Howe County census records. More African American settlers arrived in 1880 and settled on the same land as Farrar and Bobo that surrounds the Sadie Brown Cemetery. Amongst the new settlers were the Ball, Bradley, Brown, Smith, Shaw, Wade, and Jackson families. They came to clear land for large orchards being built by two prominent white businessmen. The rich community history of those buried and its lasting impact on the city is evident by streets and community markers named after prominent African Americans. Pony Thomas Street. Pony Thomas lived in the area for more than 40 years and had the confidence and respect of every person in the community. Robert Givhan Field, it's a baseball complex. Robert Givhan was an accomplished baseball player, shortstop, and decorated World War II veteran. The establishment of the church still operating today, Barney Oaks, Washington Street Church of Christ. Many of those legends buried at the Sadie Brown Cemetery passed through the one-room African-American school known as the Lincoln School, and it still stands and is utilized for other community purposes today. Following the death of St. Leger and his wife Sarah Brown, the land eventually ended up in the name of Rissy and May Smith. The Smiths assigned Ralph B. Thomas, Lige Oaks, and John Bobo as trustees. The successors of the cemetery today are direct descendants of the forefathers to the area's African American community. Today, the successors of Ralph Thomas, Lige Oaks, and John Bobo continue to carry the cemetery through private funding to cover the expenses. Sadie Brown endures as a lasting memory of those Howe County African American forefathers' final resting place. Although the exact history of St. Leger Brown's life is unknown, the story of the cemetery continues to be passed down through the family, friends, and communities impacted by the citizens buried at the cemetery bearing his name. The story from the African American forefathers differ from the folklore that whispers through the community, as Sadie Brown was not a woman, but a male Methodist minister whose legal name was St. Leger Brown.